Hello and welcome back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about the Diary of River Song story, The King of Infinite Space by Donald McClarkey. As I do with these Big Finish audio dramas, there I am, hello. I make a DVD cover, so for those who are interested, you've got the cover there, really nice. Got the spine, and if you want to look at the back, pretty cool. So yeah, if you've been watching these this marathon, you'd know that the last time we met River Song was in volume 4 of her series, which all act under a sub-story. They all have a story arc. So this is a continuation of that story arc, despite it being its own story. And going into this, I had a lot of concerns. I heard that this volume of stories isn't particularly favourable by many Doctor Who fans. And I wasn't too keen on the last story, as it was just build up for other stories without it focusing on its own story. So, and I know this isn't the finale. This is the second story in a 4-part story arc series. So, going into this, I was heavily concerned. So, it was a nice surprise that I got a pretty decent story here. It doesn't have a lot of interesting themes to tackle with. It doesn't have a lot to say. It's just a nice 60-minute chase along, and the stakes feel higher and higher and higher the more we go through the story. This particular adventure actually has River Song teaming up with her 2 previous companions from the last story. So technically they are River Song's companions, this being the bug creature, who I can't remember the name of, and I believe the robot guy was named Spod. And I liked that they came back for this story. We'll get into that. I will say, spoilers, I might be talking about things and I might not mention the spoiler, so spoilers here if you don't want this story spoiled for you. So we start off in the Discoria, the alien species that River's fighting throughout this box set. She's fighting a particular one called Malak, which we've seen in the previous story. He used to know River Song back in their college days, and since from River's point of view, the Time Wars ended, the Discoria, his race, have now gained this ability, and he even explains at one point that he doesn't remember his previous life before the Discoria gained this ability, but he remembers a lot about River Song in the original timeline, so that's pretty interesting. And in the first 10 minutes of the story, River Song dies. She gets shooted out of the airlock, and it is confirmed by the computer that the River Song ceased to exist. There was no life signs. However, she later obviously pops up about 5 minutes later when it turns out that she was distracting the Discoria so that her teammates could infiltrate their base. And I can't remember why they were in the ship, but either way they got what they wanted, and the rest of the story is basically a chase around as River and her 2 companions run around trying to avoid Malak's rule. It later turns out that the River Song that died isn't actually River Song, but a robot duplicate that the Discoria takes advantage of as he reprograms it to tell him what he wants. For example, where River Song is. Why they don't just use their abilities to go back in time and not be distracted by these creatures. No idea. He gains the ability to breathe in outer space, as during River Song's escapades, or the robot's escapades anyway. There was a situation when they almost died from leaving the ship's atmosphere. So he altered his biochemical blueprint so that he could breathe in space. Again, why didn't he just revert it back in time like the premise promised? No idea. But the thing is, the story, it isn't really too focused on the details. It's just here to have a nice little fun adventure, which I think delivers, as the first place we go is to this water planet. There's a fun little banter that goes on throughout the rest of the story in each place they arrive, and whether it is a planet of a particular something, or this particular something that just so happens to be on Earth. So it's like, are we on an ocean planet, or an ocean that's just so happened on a planet? And I like that it's taken the mick out of the idea in sci-fi where you set it in one place and you're just they tell you to basically use your imagination to depict the entire planet is like this, like Star Wars does with its deserts. So yeah, that was pretty fun, and I really like the characters in this. Again, nothing deep here. Nobody has a big story arc in the story or any like particular moments, but they are likable enough that you do like the banter between them and you do have fun listening to them. And whilst they're on this ocean, they get attacked by giant dragonflies, which then turned out to be allies as they take them to a sort of like a fair, which I believe they say something about the Sontarans. The audio on one of the bits is really garbled, and I couldn't understand a word, which is a huge criticism because it's an audio adventure. And they later explain something to do with the Ogrons, and River Song mentions that she's met them before. So it does tie into Volume 6, where in Peep Show, River Song met both the Sontarans and the Ogrons. So it basically says that in terms of River's point of view, that story, as well with the Doctor, takes place before this. Yeah, so that's pretty interesting little nod to future or past stories, depending on your point of view. And the Discoria then comes to this planet, and basically all hell breaks loose. And River Song gets a battery for a vortex manipulator from this fair, and they explain that with Spod. The more he uses it, the more weaker he gets. They explain a lot about the vortex manipulator in this story, which is surprising. The more you use it in quick succession, it has a huge effect on your body, and you become more weaker and weaker and weaker, which plays a very heavy part into the last few moments of the story, which I really liked. And yes, the Discoria uses the robot River and basically programs it to tell him where River is, and then they go to this water planet. And then, once this happens, the bloody bug character dies out of nowhere. I mean, I was really liking his companions, and then she dies all of a sudden. She gets murdered. That's one of the spoilers I didn't mention before. It came out of left field. I don't know how to feel about her dying so soon. I really liked the character. At least leave it until like the very end. But it is that Game of Thrones motto that when you have characters just constantly dying, you don't know who's next, and it keeps you more engaged as you want to know who lives and who dies. So I do appreciate it for that. Later on, the vortex manipulator takes the crew onto, I can't remember what's next. I believe it's the volcano. No, it's not. It's the second place they go is this city, this hugely populated city, and River and Spod get a taxi there, and they get a taxi on the city, and they hear that this place is full of populated. So River and Spod basically plan that they're going to shoot off next. So whilst that's going on, we get some really great banter moments with the Discoria, Malik, and the robot River Song. I'm not particularly keen on the voice they decide to use and the attitude that they use for the Discoria. He is the representation of the devil. He has one of the strongest OP powers in the universe, but he talks like he's just like a henchman, like he's just a bystander in the Discoria Empire, and the way he talks is just, it's casual but not in a fun way. He talks just like, I don't know how to describe it. It's not really that threatening. But it does lead to some great banter. One of my favourite bits is when they're trying to get the android robot to work. The machine operator, he feels like he has to be very precise, so he keeps calling Malik sub-commander, and Malik doesn't really like it. So he's like, "You say it one more time." Say what, sub-commander? And he shoots him. I was like, is that understood? Yes, commander. And then kills him. So I like the little bit there. And River Song has a nice little moment where she's flirting with the Disconia, and is jealous of herself. And you could clearly tell she's kind of playing for time. And yeah, so a lot of fun and a lot of great moments there, which does actually help with me enjoying the Discoria race. But I still feel like they're pretty weak villains, and they probably needed another rewrite or two to improve their characters. So back with River and Spod, they travel again to a different planet. I really like this concept of River and companions traveling around in one story. It reminds me a lot of The Chase. This is basically River Song's Chase, in my opinion. And they land on a volcano planet, or a planet which just so happens to have a volcano. Who knows? And they meet this character, and first she's like, "Get away! This is my property." But slowly, this character hurls a gun at them. It's like, "You're gonna stay. You're gonna give me company." It gets really lonely out here. I'm actually like really poor, but I can enjoy the company with you. So come with me. And it does keep, like I said, this story really puts the stakes high, as River Song knows she can't stay in one place, but this character is basically forcing her to. And then the Discoria comes, the Malik comes, and again, Malik's performance is just miscast, and it really doesn't work. I mean, this is the devil, or at least someone that's taken the form of the devil. You can see a picture of him there, though this is an audio story. On a volcano, near a volcano, And yet you feel like this scene could take place anywhere with any sort of villain, humanoid villain, with a crouchy, modified voice. But there's a great moment where he's talking to River, and he's monologuing, and River's like, please don't monologue, I hate monologues. Why is he's monologuing so much, and how much he's going to torture River and all her loved ones and stuff, that that Spod actually pushes him into the volcano as he was distracted. However, Discoria finally uses his ability and heals himself through time by making him more resistant to volcano, and he can fly now as well. He flies up and he kills Spod. So all the three characters that were set up to be like River's team are basically gone by the second story, which took me by surprise. I was not expecting that. I would have thought they would have stayed to at least the end, and maybe River uses the Distoria's powers and can fix them. Maybe, I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. And so River's on her own, and she, with her vortex manipulator, just keeps teleporting, and you can feel in Alex Kingston's amazing performance that she's getting weaker and weaker and weaker. And yeah, it really works. You can really feel the damage it's happening to her body. When I listen to it, I can like imagine her with like a bruise and maybe some blood coming out of her lips, and just like ripped clothes and like maybe some mud or some like burns on her arms or something like drastic like that, I can imagine. But it's no luck. The Discoria comes to River on almost one of her final journeys as she lands on a forest planet. River is like, is it a forest planet or a planet that just so happens with a forest? Only for River's android, which is now is like a companion of Malak, explains. But River has enough energy to go on, and they have a little debate. And whilst River is teleporting on these scenes, she mentions how, please doctor, please save me. If you can hear me, my love, please just come at this moment. I need your help. And she comes up with this theory that the Distoria are actually altering the Doctor's history. So whether that's going to be a play in a plot, we'll have to wait and see. It's like a one-off line. It's not really important in this story anyway. And you get a really good interaction in which you feel like River Song is going to die, and she uses the teleportation thing again, and it's believed that she's dead, but actually she reappears on the Discoria ship right to where she began. But the signal was very faint. So what the Discoria Malak did, he programmed the robot River to the Distoria computer system. And it later then turns out that he just fell right into River's trap, as the robot River actually sets self-destruct systems and blows up the ship, whilst River teleports for the last time. And she is injured and bruised, and she doesn't know where she is. She feels like she's destroyed the Discoria. And yeah, and the story kind of leaves on a cliffhanger, and I can't remember if it is Malak or if it's somebody else, but you hear somebody else talking at the end, which is clearly one of the Discoria, sorry. I probably pronounced that terribly and differently throughout this entire video. I do apologise. Implying basically that they might have recovered from that. So yeah, that's the King of Infinite Space. If you take it on face value, it probably doesn't work. The characters just seem to be there. to build up the plot line for later stories. The villain is pretty weak in terms of his performance, and it doesn't have anything to really say or to do anything. You might listen to this, enjoy it, but can forget about it. However, I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. It's popcorn fest. It's just an hour-long chase scene in the style of the Dalek story, The Chase, in which they constantly are in different places all the time. So I really personally enjoyed it, but I will admit, it's not a particularly great story. It's really weak, but it's a lot of fun. So if that sounds interesting to you, try it. King of Infinite Space. Obviously, it's part of a box set, so you'll have to listen to Time in a Bottle before this, and you've got 2 stories to listen to after this. So, there you go, King of Infinite Space. So join me next time when we go back to the Doctor and Sarah. We land in history, I can't remember where, and we have a cosmic entity roaming around, destroying things. So join me next time for The Mask of Mandragona. See you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon. Ta-da!